Yeah, these bottles got to be warmed up a little bit, supposedly up to 75 degrees or so. So I'm gonna put them in hot water for about 10 minutes. Just leave them set.
Train, 16 coaches long.
Yeah, I can see why. Well, I've been hem hawing on this for just a bit. It's time to just get on with it. These have just come out of the sink, and they're a little warm. They're not hot, but they are warm. They're not as cold as it is in the garage. I know I probably should have the temperature a little bit warmer in here. It's probably around 70 degrees. And let's just do this thing. Let's just do it. You know what? Just grab the bull by the horns. I've been hem hawing long enough. Okay, cut me some sticks. I'm gonna do that double method. This is the resin. Six of that. Nice and slow. Six of that. Now that's six of those. Now I'm gonna mix this one into this one. Then I'm gonna do this nice and slow for about 2 minutes. Start timer 2 minutes.
Your timer is set for 2 minutes.
Okay. Discard my stick. Discard my old cup. Get a new cup. New stick. Stir for 1 more minute. I'm not going to colorize this. That's 1 minute. Going over to the project. Let her run. This area here is going to take a little bit more. Gonna let it do its natural thing there. And there's how the water falls. Now I got some up in this whole pot area up top. Now I'm gonna try to get at least one layer down in here on the whole thing. At least a little bit down in here. I see movement. Hopefully that's not a hole. I've got a layer down there. You're probably not going to be able to see it very well. And I ain't real thrilled with the way the blue showed up, but probably should have been blended in a little bit better, but it don't look terrible. Let her dry up a little bit. My dam seems to be holding up pretty well. What I did was I tilted the board up a little bit so I can get this resin to not run downhill so much and maybe run back into the pond. And I think it looks pretty good so far. And my last step for, I guess for 24 hours or so is just cover it up and keep the dust off from it. However, you know, it looked like dust wouldn't bother it a whole bunch anyway. But here's a close-up of how this clear ended up working. I think the blue may have been a little bit of a mistake. The clear looks fine, but if you look, it's just, you could tell that the blue, since I put down clear epoxy, you could tell that that's painted. Also, like in the areas up in here, you can see that when I put those drips of ink, they actually spread. They spread up in the areas that I didn't want, and I don't want to put any more epoxy up to this level. So I'm trying to come up with a method of, actually on the video it doesn't look terrible, but I can really see what I think my goal is going to be is to take some of this right here, this tan earth, and a brush and go through and kind of clean up some of this blue that I don't want way up in here. I'm gonna start by doing that and cleaning some of that up, and then maybe take along the edges here and put a little bit of that brown earth in here so I can see if I can blend it. I was gonna try to airbrush it, but I'm not gonna airbrush over top of this clear. But take some of this blue out of areas that it wasn't supposed to be in. Maybe, let me play with it a little bit, then I'll show you. Well, I told you that I didn't like that blue in there, so what I've done, instead of trying to go in with an airbrush, in which I do have an airbrush, I just took some paint, and I told you this is going to be a salvage operation, and I am using I'm using some paint with mixed with some water, and I'm just kind of dampening down this blue. So anyway, I'm taking a little bit of this dark tan earth, a little gray with it, just to knock it down a little bit, and just wet washing around the edges, trying to take some of this blue out. And I think it's looking better. I'm gonna practice up in here. Again, this is another salvage operation. I would not put that blue down like I did. So I'm going back and, cause that stuff just spread everywhere and it made too much blue. So I'm just trying to knock some of the blue back off from it. As you can see, there's not any epoxy hardly left up here at all, from about here at the top till about right in here. There's very little epoxy. So what I'm doing on my next pour, I need to slow that free flow of epoxy down a little bit. And what I've elected to do is jack this thing up on one side so I could slow it down. I think what I'm gonna try is a small pour from here to this point right here. I think I've slowed the flow down long enough where I can get it to stick here. And I'm gonna put a little bit of colorized epoxy in there over top of this blue so it's not so seen. So I'm gonna clean the edges up a little bit, and then I'm gonna run some more epoxy, but it's kind of cold out today. I'm gonna see what the temperature does. If I can get 4 or 5 hours above 60 degrees or so, I'll probably do a little pour. Well, I think I'm about ready. What I've done was I've dampened out that blue a lot with a lot of tan earth around the edges and tried to take a little bit of that blue out. I regrayed the rocks because when I put the blue down, I covered a bunch of rocks out, so I recolored the rocks so that they're gray. And from just the upper section here, I've just basically dampened it out, and I'm gonna try to re-pour just the top. And the way I'm gonna try to do that is I've got this thing jacked up on boards on the side to get the angle of this thing so I can slow the run of this stuff. And I'm gonna go 2 ounces per resin, 2 ounces per hardener. And I'm gonna just work this top area and find out if I can just get the flow down to this area. If it does go into here, there's nothing really I could do to this bottom pond down here. I can't recolorize any of the rocks down deep in there. Can't do anything. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put the recolored epoxy on top of that. But I'm gonna try to keep a majority of that off of there for right now. I'm just gonna do the top area. And then I have to lower it back down off the legs and then pour on top of the stream down here in the pond. So this is just to get the upper pond done. Looks a lot bluer in the video than it actually is. Now down there it's blue.
but I'm gonna pour that on the next time.